Hello, and welcome to the Bear Me Alive podcast.
I'm your host, Technicality.
And I'm your host, Ghostly. We are super excited to have this as our first episode on this show officially. It's kind of crazy. How are you doing today, Cal?
I'm a bit tired, but we're gonna do this.
I'm going to take that as you're doing good then.
Yeah.
Are you excited for today's topic?
It'll be interesting.
Would you do the honor of introducing today's topic?
We will be discussing Mothman.
Mothman! He was my absolute favorite cryptid. For the record, I am holding my Mothman plushie right now. He is accompanying this recording. Uh, and I am quite excited. How much do you know, Cal, about Mothman?
Not actually a lot. I haven't had a chance to do much research on him.
All right, so this is going to be an interesting conversation. All right, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, let's jump right in. So, it is confirmed that the first sighting of Mothman was in November of 1966 in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. It is varied if the first people to see him were grave diggers a bit earlier in the month, but the first recorded police report of the creature was on November 15th of 1996. There were two young couples from the town. They were locals. Their names were Roger and Linda Scarberry. Apologies if that's the incorrect pronunciation. And Steve and Mary Mallet. They reported to the police that they had seen a large black creature whose eyes glowed red. In many descriptions, it is pointed out that his eyes were redder than the color red.
That's a description. Um,
It's a bit counterproductive there.
how can something be redder than the color red? I don't think they knew how colors work.
I don't know. Yeah, they might not have. All right. The creature, later dubbed as Mothman, was spotted near TNT area that was used in World War II. The area was abandoned and it was off the side of a road near the forest. It was not in use, but there was still things in the plant from World War II. The Scarberries and Mallets were known in the area because they were locals and it's a rather small town. They were not known for doing anything that might have affected their perception of their night, so they weren't known for drinking excessively or doing drugs. So they are a rather trustworthy source. Linda Scarberry, one of the people who saw him that night, described them as a slender, muscular man about 7 feet tall with white wings, and said she was unable to discern its face due to the hypnotic effect of its eyes.
That is more than mildly concerning.
More than mildly concerning is one way to put it. One of the theories about the creature links to where it was spotted in that TNT area. Due to the area, it is theorized by some that the abandoned plant was his quote-unquote nest, and he was an escaped government experiment. Input?
That's a very interesting theory.
Oh, you don't even know some of these other theories.
Huh. It'll be interesting to see.
The creature was again reported to be seen by others over the next few days. Some accounts were more reliable than others because some of the people who reported it were known for doing the devil's lettuce. So they were not as reliable. But the most notable source, in my opinion, that is reliable were two volunteer firemen who saw it after a report, describing it as a large bird with red eyes. I personally find this interesting due to the fact that it was people involved with the authorities, and if it was a quote unquote escaped government experiment, the fact that people who work with the government reported it is interesting to me.
Do we know with any of these sightings if they all happened at night?
Mm, that's a good question. I know that the first sighting was that night, and they reported it the next morning. And like I mentioned at the start, it is varied whether the first people to see him were the couples or grave diggers. And so grave diggers typically actually don't work at night. So, however, pictures of the creature were all taken at night. And he was known to have more activity at night. So, I think it's a pretty good assumption to assume that he is nocturnal.
So all of these sightings were in the same general area?
Yes, all in this time period, he was only known to be seen in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, near this area. However, he was also reported to be seen in Chicago once or twice, so maybe it's like a vacation spot for him.
Do we know if any of the people who saw him previously heard about him from the other locals?
We know that the Scarberries and Mallets, the first people to report him, were not informed by others because they were the first people to see him. But it is possible that others were influenced by this, and obviously, so many people have gone looking for the Mothman later on. So it could be influenced by some, but the way that these reports work, I doubt that all of them were just because rumors went around. The name of the Mothman was influenced by Batman due to the popularity at the time, and there's an antagonist in the books called the Killer Moth, and due to its wings and red eyes, and wanting to avoid copyright, newspapers started calling him the Mothman in reference to that. It was very common to see in newspapers in West Virginia during the 60s and very quickly spread around the country and even overseas.
How quickly was the spread of Mothman? Was it a local thing for a few years, or did it spread within the month?
It was local for about I don't have exact timelines, but based off of some of the notes I have here, it was localized for about half a year, maybe a little over. And then as the sightings became more and more dramatic and they started getting linked to things, which I'm about to get into here in a minute, it was became more of an international thing.
It's highly interesting.
So, it is theorized that sightings of Mothman linked to bad things happening in the area. Seeing Mothman is known as in bad omen, and I don't know what that says for me as someone with multiple posters of Mothman in his house.
You'll be fine.
I'm not accident prone. I definitely don't have a scar from a ruler. I'll be fine. I'm doing great.
To be fair, I just have a broken mirror hanging up in my house, so
For context, for people who don't know, which is most of you, Technicality broke her mirror in the bathroom and just didn't fix it. So there's just a broken mirror.
it still works. It just has a giant crack on it.
Cal and I dyed our hair together, and when I went over to her house to dye our hair, the first thing she was like, don't look at the mirror. It's fine."
I'm completely fine. No bad luck at all. So, you know what? It's cool.
She has bad luck. Don't listen to her.
Says you.
Anyways, the theory began to pick up motion by a book because there was an author named John Keel who titled a book The Mothman Prophecies, and he was linking Mothman sightings to things happening in the area. I have some of the big stick out points that I noticed. I looked over some quotes from the book and I went on Wikipedia, and here are some of the things that Keel believed linked to Mothman. The first one is December 15th in 1967. Just over a year since the first Mothman sighting, there was a collapse of the Silver Bridge and 46 people died. After this, there was an abrupt stop in sightings, and sightings of Mothman had been pretty consistent during this time period. So having that abrupt stop after such a travesty is a bit suspicious.
Do you think people were staying inside more, or is this more of a,
No, people are still going about their day-to-day lives.
huh, that's very interesting.
Another theory that links to Mothman, there was a uptick in sightings just before a Russian apartment bombing in 1999. This one is a bit interesting because the sightings were still in Point Pleasant and some in actually Moscow, which is in Russia. And then there was a bunch of bombings to an apartment complex after there were reports of him. So that one,
Mothman got the bombs.
Mothman has bombs? Is that what you just said?
Yes.
Do we support a bomber Mothman? I don't know if I want Mothman around my house anymore.
Yeah, maybe not.
Is he a bomber? Did he bomb the collapsing bridge?
Unlikely. But
Cal, I think you just started a new theory. Okay, wait. Hold up. Running with this really quick. Because this is now a thing. He is reported in what his theorized nest is a former TNT area from World War II. And like I mentioned, there were still some resources there.
dun dun dun.
Is Mothman a bomber? Is he a terrorist? Am I supporting a terrorist? Am I cuddling a terrorist plushie right now? Mothman, how dare you? Okay. Anyways, moving along. When there was an increase in sighting reports, there were other disruptions around Point Pleasant. Some of the things that were reported were disruptions of electronic devices, such as telephones. The lines would suddenly go dead or they would short circuit. The police dispatch radios were not working as they were supposed to and picking up just random static. Televisions would randomly just cut off. There were automobiles that were also acting weird. Gas would run out very fast, or brakes wouldn't work. And there were numerous reports of UFO sightings during the uptick of Mothman reports as well.
Mothman is a UFO.
Okay, so is he a terrorist bomber or is he a UFO?
To be fair, if he has wings, it's just unidentified flying object. So, technically, he could be both.
That's true. I'm not going to start off on this whole rant because this episode is about Mothman, not UFOs. Maybe we'll do a UFO episode in the future. But I hate when people assume that a UFO is like an alien space shuttle because it literally just means unidentified flying object.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty. I'm guilty of saying UFO to refer to a alien space shuttle. But I don't like when people just assume that when someone reports a UFO, it's automatically aliens.
Yeah, it's a bit of an interesting cultural thing.
There are very few sightings of Mothman nowadays, but there were estimated nearly 100 sightings of Mothman in the 60s alone.
Do we know when the Mothman sightings ran down?
After the bridge collapsed in 1967, but they picked up a little bit again after that, and then they dropped down again. In 2016, a man took photos of a creature resembling Mothman The pictures are quite blurry, but it almost exactly matches the description of Mothman. And these pictures were posted everywhere. He took 3 of them. I'm sending over a picture to Cal right now. It is quite blurry, but you can definitely see a humanoid figure with large wings and almost deer-like legs.
That's interesting. Huh. Do we know the history of the person who took the photos?
Some random guy. It was just recorded as man photographs a creature.
So limited information.
Yeah, limited information. Take it with a grain of salt, as always.
I mean, with all of this, you have to take it with a grain of
Yeah.
salt.
Be careful out there, kids, especially on the internet from random people.
Don't believe absolutely everything you hear. What does that say about us?
We're random people on the internet who are talking about cryptids. They shouldn't trust us.
Fair enough.
We're safe. We're a safe place, don't worry. So, the overall description of Mothman has led a theory, particularly started by a biologist named Robert L. Smith from West Virginia University. He theorized that the creature was actually a sandhill crane that was off of the migration route, which caused people to be confused because they hadn't seen the bird before. These birds have a 7-foot long wingspan and red-rimmed eyes. However, the sandhill crane does not have redder than red eyes, in my opinion. And it was known to have a hypnotic effect, and the sandhill cranes just more look like they just saw something very brutal rather than hypnotic effect.
They do have the red eyes, though.
They do have red eyes.
I mean, their eyes are orange, but the red around their eyes could be mistaken for a full eye. And it looks...
Yeah, if you were to compare the picture of the creature in the sky taken in 2016 to a sandhill crane, I'm not seeing the correlation. Also, sandhill cranes are known to be in Chicago, but there's none near Moscow. However, one thing that Mothman has that the sandhill crane does not is a fabulous behind. I am referring to the Mothman statue.
Oh, that one.
I just want to make a comment about Mothman's butt because it's so funny to me.
Who made that statue?
I don't know. If you don't know the Mothman statue, please Google Mothman statue back, and you will see what we're talking about right now. I made Cal look it up the other day, and she was deeply concerned. What are your thoughts on that one, Cal?
It's interesting. I think it's interesting how just random sightings of what could be or could not be real inspired different, like a full statue. Because that takes huge amounts of resources and time to create. And it's interesting how it can inspire different people. So interesting how they chose to create it.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, the people of Point Pleasant, you just gave me a great segue there. Thank you for that, Cal. It is very welcome in Point Pleasant. Mothman has become like this town's little mascot. And obviously, it encourages tourism to the town, and that gets smaller businesses money there because it is a small town. However, if you are a local and you don't believe in Mothman, there's a chance you may be exiled. They take Mothman very seriously. They have a Mothman festival and a statue in his honor. Many local restaurants have Mothman-themed foods. There is a cafe with Mothman cookies and coffees. And there's also a pizza place with a Mothman pizza. So they take great pride in Mothman. And honestly, I would too. Mothman! We are from the West Coast, and I know here we take a lot of pride in Sasquatch. Pretty much any store you walk into, especially directed towards tourists, you can find something Sasquatch themed. I see him everywhere. He follows me.
I think it's really cool how local areas can be brought together by a shared cryptid story, and how that can be a defining part of the tourism for that place.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a defining part of our tourism, but it's definitely made an impact.
Back to Mothman.
Another theory about Mothman, so we have the theories that he's an escaped government experiment. Cal made the lovely theory that he's a terrorist. And there's a theory that he is just a sandhill crane and was just the off route from migration.
How long total has Mothman been around?
The first sighting was 1966. We don't know how, like, when he was created or arrived, if you will. But the first sighting was in 1966.
If we're continuing with sightings of Mothman, although it can be caused by placebo effect and other circumstances, I don't think cranes live that long. So either it would be multiple cranes going off path or something else.
Yeah. I like the something else option.
Makes life a bit more interesting.
Yeah, I think we all need a little more spooks and geeks in our lives. That's why we're here. There is another theory about what the Mothman is.
Maybe a person dressed up weirdly? But it would be kind of weird if that's going on.
Sorry, I just imagined a random person walking out the woods at an abandoned spot at night with giant wings and like LEDs in their eyes. Just like, sup, how are you?
That'd be kind of awesome. Just to scare people. It'd be wonderful.
That's something I would do. Moving along. No, that is not the theory. Thank you for that giggle, though. The theory is that he's an extraterrestrial from either another planet or another dimension entirely. This would explain the uptick in other paranormal activities in the area when he is present. If he is from another dimension, maybe he's bringing that energy along with him. This would explain why he is unidentifiable, because he's not from our world. And this would also possibly explain the UFO sightings if he is some kind of alien creature. Maybe he's contacting some buddies back home.
No, don't bring it back to the bringing back the UFOs to aliens. It always comes back to the aliens.
I mean, and we don't want to blame things on other things in our world. May as well just throw it to the stars.
Fair enough. It's an easy thing to blame.
A lot of UFO sightings, it's like, oh no, I saw a random glowing object in the sky and now all my milk is spoiled. It must be those darned aliens. In this case, oh no, my car broke down. Must be that darn Mothman. Doing his thing.
Yeah, fair enough. Poor Mothman getting blamed for everything.
Justice for Mothman. Justice for Mothman. I stand
Except if he's a terrorist.
Except if he's a terrorist, then he deserves what's coming to him. Also, linked to Mothman sightings was an uptick, like I mentioned, in paranormal activity. And some of that paranormal activity was issues with the gases in the area. So,
Do you think that it could be causing hallucinations, not hallucinogens?
Hallucinogens? Yeah. Because his eyes are known to have a quote-unquote hypnotic effect, according to Linda Scarberry. And other people who also reported him, they were just entranced by his eyes. It was quite jarring to many. So, it could be a mass hallucinogen, but that wouldn't make sense to me because of some of the other things reported in the area. Sure, if a bunch of people hallucinated a giant Mothman running around the woods, that would be one thing. But hallucinating your car breaking down, hallucinating the line going dead on a phone call, that's when it gets a bit iffy.
You also have the fact that it'd be semi-strange if they all hallucinated the same thing. Although they could be affected by previous reportings, like have that in the back of your mind that, there's a Mothman in the woods.
I love how peacefully you said that. It's like, there's a deer in the woods. There's a Mothman in the woods.
I mean...
I wish there was a Mothman in my woods. Why did that sound dirty?
I don't know, but that was very interesting.
Yeah, let's move along. He's beloved by a lot of people, including me. Love you, Mothman. Unless you're a terrorist. But we don't know what he is. So it's a very hard thing to talk about because while he is loved by so many people, we have no idea who or what he is.
Or the possible origins of how it actually fully developed and started.
Yeah.
Because we know the first sighting, but how that came to be is still a mystery.
Yeah. Obviously, there's films about Mothman. He has a book that he did not write. That was written by the guy, but it would be cool if
The guy.
The guy. I forgot his name. I think it's like John Keel. I'm sorry, Mr. Keel. I know his last name's Keel. Hold up. Yep, John Keel.
To be fair, John is one of the most common names. So.
I know. It drives me crazy because I'll be reading like a history textbook and I'm trying to take notes and I'm just like, which John are you? Because they'll just call them John and there's 20 Johns in my notes.
The John.
The John. Be more creative with your names, people. If you're having a kid, name it something other than John.
No offense to any of the Johns out there.
Maybe some offense, depending if you're a bad John. But if you're a good John, no offense.
Yes. Now on to Mothman.
Now back on to Mothman, exactly. There is a Mothman museum in West Virginia, which includes very big dioramas of Mothman and history, and it even includes the original copies of the police reports of sightings of Mothman through the years. I know that the original copy of the first ever sighting of Mothman is in the museum.
That's really cool.
I know, we should go visit that.
That would be quite a road trip.
Road trip. Yeah, that would be quite a road trip. That's on the other side of the country. We can do a half across the country road trip.
It'll be fine.
Unless Mothman attacks our car.
How dare we talk about Mothman?
He found out that we called him a terrorist, so he's going to chase our car down.
Oh no. That'd be an interesting episode. We got attacked by Mothman.
Not clickbait. However, there actually are reports of Mothman in which he chased down cars. So, maybe we shouldn't play that one off. Be careful what you say, Technicality. Mothman's watching.
Now all I'm imagining is a giant moth guy trying to operate YouTube.
Mothman sitting in his nest with a laptop, trying to type his name into the keyboard with his long claws.
Yep, that's what he does in his free time.
He has like his little reading glasses on. Where is the U? I need to type UFO. He's just me at 2 a.m. Sorry, dear viewers.
Ghostly is actually Mothman.
The follow-up episode after Mothman attacked our car, not clickbait. My co-host was actually Mothman this whole time, also not clickbait. Sorry, viewers.
That would make for an interesting episode.
That would be an interesting episode. If you guys want to see an episode where we try and taunt Mothman into attacking our car, go ahead and drop a like on this one.
That's definitely how that works.
We'll do it if we get 1,000,000 likes. We'll go track down Mothman.
And then imagine if we just go there and then nothing happens at all, so we just have a bunch of blank audio of us walking through the woods.
And then I reveal my true form and eat you.
Then we can continue the podcast.
I can make things work. People won't know.
Ah, yes. I'll just regenerate my body.
Exactly. Remember?
Fair enough.
I just thought it was something deeply disturbing. For fans of other podcasts, particularly audio dramas, you are most likely familiar with the Magnus Archives, which is my personal favorite. And in it, there's a creature called the Not Them, who is linked to the Stranger. So basically, they eat people's lives and then take on their world and life and go about that person's business. So I'll just get a Not Them technicality.
How about we not and say we did?
No one will know. Wait, so you want to tell people that we got a Not Them version of you, but it's actually just the original you?
Maybe.
Look out. You, like we said, you can't trust us. We're random people on the internet who talk about cryptids.
Back to Mothman.
Mothman. Back to Mothman. We are very on topic this episode. In reports of Mothman, it varies between him being hostile and a kind of chill guy. He varies. I mentioned he does chase cars on occasion. They saw Mothman, and he was chill. He was just wandering around. But, yeah, they were walking around the TNT area, and they saw him, and it freaked them out, so they went running into the car, and he started chasing them down, with, like, flying after them over the car. But he didn't touch the car. So there's no evidence on the car of him being chasing. But other reports just show him as kind of like a chill guy who just likes to hang out, apparently Google himself on YouTube.
Do we know if the original couples to see him, why they were in the TNT mines?
Oh, that's a good question. They were joyriding around in a black 1957 Chevy, which is a car, to a remote hangout spot north of Point Pleasant known as the TNT area.
Why is the former TNT area a hangout spot?
Wanted a secluded area to hang out, and they just wanted to drive around. They were young couples. They were, I believe...
So they were together? Like, they were all in a group together?
Yes, it was Linda and Roger, Steve and Mary. Steve and Mary were married, and Roger and Linda were also married, but I believe they were both under 30, like all of them. So the articles I read said that other people were chased, and those kids were in high school. These people had graduated high school, but they were still young, so maybe there are multiple accounts of him chasing cars. This one claims they quickly drove off to Route 62, which is where the photos of Mothman were taken in 2016. They yelled at each other to hurry, and then they saw the creature on a hill by a large billboard as they went around a curve. It spread its wings and went straight up into the air. They were all terrified and kept yelling for the driver to go faster. The Mothman began gliding back and forth over the back end of their car. We didn't know what it was. I don't think we've ever been so scared, said Linda. End quote.
Do we know who was driving?
Roger.
Huh.
Why does that matter? Do you not trust Roger?
I was just confused because you said the driver. Like, there might have been...
That was just a direct quote from the Wikipedia. So, wait, that's a good point. They said Linda yelled for Roger to hurry, and then the driver. And I read over some of the police reports. It was confirmed that Roger was driving.
Huh. That's interesting.
Is Roger Mothman? Wait, but then how would he been chased?
It's most likely just a typo, given it's Wikipedia.
Probably. But if I were a cryptid, and then I was in a group and, like, someone spotted me, I wouldn't report myself to the police. I would say that all of them were crazy. I don't know what they're talking about.
Good to know.
I would throw you under the bus.
How dare you?
It's the Mothman business, baby. You do what you gotta do.
Wow. I just want to have this on the record. If I disappear suddenly, it's all Ghostly's fault.
Wow. Okay. That's not going to hold up at court.
Interesting.
That's all the facts and info I got on Mothman. So, now a bit of more of an open discussion without scripting. What are your thoughts over there, Technicality?
To be fair, none of this was scripted.
I know, but I'm saying I finished my little notes.
Okay.
For our listeners, all of our episodes are unscripted. We all just take notes on our topics, but everything is unscripted. I just make little notes for myself. What are your thoughts on these sightings, Cal?
I think it's really interesting because it's not like a lot of the other ones where we have proof of how it started, of the roots of it. It's not like Sasquatch or some of these others where we know what was the initial start, what caused it, what was the actual reason behind the cryptid. We don't have that information, and having it seen in multiple places over such a long time span makes for a very interesting puzzle to figure out.
I mean, you could say the time span is as long as his wingspan.
Having a 60-foot wingspan would be very interesting.
He has a 7-foot wingspan.
Okay.
Or estimated 7-foot wingspan. Most people, when they see a giant creature with giant glowing red eyes in the woods, their immediate thought isn't, I should pull out a tape measure and measure its wingspan so that way I can report that later.
More people should do that.
Honestly, yeah, if you see a Mothman, anyone, if you see a Mothman, please measure its wingspan for us. It would be so helpful.
I'd be greatly appreciated. Also, I would appreciate if you could get its autograph, maybe get a selfie with it.
Yes, please get a Mothman autograph for us. We'll frame it and we'll put it up on our page so that we can add it to the Mothman Museum when we go visit.
Everyone, you see a Mothman? You walk up to it. Do not run.
Don't fear the Mothman.
I'm not liable for any deaths caused by walking Mothmans.
We do not have lawyers, so you can't sue us.
That's how that works.
Totally. What are you talking about?
Mothman is amazing. Please don't hunt us down and kill us. We want to take selfies with you, Mothman.
Mothman, we would love your autograph. We would love some selfies. We thank you if you're listening to this. We hope you were not offended by anything we said, especially the terrorist jokes.
Except if you are a terrorist.
Except if you are a terrorist. If you are, please stop listening to our podcast.
Yeah, let's just have that as a rule. No terrorists can listen to our podcast.
Here's a list of people who are not allowed on this podcast. Terrorists, racists, homophobes, ableists. Get away from us, please. But Mothman, if you're not any of those things, please come and hang out with us. We'd love to have you as a guest star.
That would be amazing. That would...
So, Mothman, what is your current opinion on the things being said about you?
Was that an audio clip of your cat?
That was me doing a Mothman impression.
I thought your cat walking in front of your mic.
No, my cat's not even in the room. I locked them out when I started recording. What do you think my Mothman impression sounds like a cat?
A little bit.
You try doing a Mothman impression.
I don't know what moths sound like.
I think that's all we have for today. Thank you for tuning in. As a reminder, I'm your host, Ghostly.
And I'm your host, Technicality. And we hope you have enjoyed Bury Me Alive.
Thank you for listening, and we hope to see you again soon. If you did like this episode, please go ahead and interact with us. If you're listening to us on YouTube, you can go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. I know that's annoying, but it really does help us out. And if you're listening on Spotify, please use our Q&A feature so that way we can interact with you more directly. We would love to hear your thoughts on this episode.
This has been our show. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Have a great day.